Welcome to the Lawyers Emotional Intelligence Book Club, session number 5 for February 1st, 2017. My name is Dave Scriven-Young. I'm a lawyer focusing on litigation, environmental law, and construction law in Chicago, Illinois. The purpose of the book club is to do a deep dive into books that will help us develop emotional intelligence skills and specifically think about how we might begin to use these skills in our law practices. I'm here on Periscope every Wednesday night at 7 p.m. for this discussion, and it is a discussion. I'm not here as some sort of expert, but I do want your questions and comments, so please play along as we go along through these books. I'm really interested in learning from you and from hearing your opinions and observations, and I look forward to learning from all of you. As a reminder, to keep up with the book club, I encourage you to join the online discussion with our Facebook group at facebook.com/lawyersEQ and on my Twitter account, twitter.com/ILEnvirolawblog. So, we're moving through chapters 4 and 5 of the Thank You Economy today and the book is by Gary Vaynerchuk. So let's flip open these slides and let's get to it. So there's Gary once again, working on chapters 4 and 5. And so what I wanted to talk to all of you about today is an important topic. And that is, from a law firm perspective, from a lawyer's perspective, how do you keep lawyers happy? And specifically, how do you keep associates happy? And that's a topic that I think a lot of people worry about, maybe outside of the law firm environment more than inside the law firm environment. I came across this article recently from a recruiter. It is called Why You Are Unhappy Practicing Law, Soldiers and Generals and Law Firms. And essentially what the author of the article goes through is several different reasons why he believes at least attorneys and specifically law firm associates and non-partners are not happy. That he gets a lot of phone calls from law firm associates saying, I really want to move on from my law firm, I want to go in-house, or I'm interested in perhaps going to a different firm. And he's positing why he thinks lawyers are unhappy and want to move on to other places. And he goes through 3 different things, but the first thing he does is talk about the difference between soldiers and generals and how, law firm associates are, essentially, the soldier who, does the work and doesn't necessarily, get the stars on his chest, but the general has the stars and has control over things. And he has 3 different things as to why law firm soldier attorneys, as he calls them, are unhappy. One, he says they don't feel competent. He says it takes a great deal of time to learn to be an effective attorney, and have a good understanding of a practice takes 5 years. Also, young attorneys typically receive little positive feedback, and really, they mainly receive negative feedback because the general attorneys, partners are telling them, well, you really could do this better, you really could do that better, and they don't really get a lot of positive feedback. And he says the more negative feedback the attorney receives, the less the attorney cares about his or her work. Second reason is that soldier attorneys don't feel autonomous. And what that means in a big law firm is that you may be working on a small subset of matters with deadlines, and you're not really running the matters. You're not really maybe even talking to the client. Maybe you're just doing document review, and you're really just simply people are telling you what to do, and you're just fulfilling their demands. And so they feel a lack of control. And additionally, they say that law firm soldier attorneys don't experience psychological relatedness, meaning they're often just in their offices, and they don't really see that there's a related purpose to anything, and they also feel like there's competition with their fellow associates for hours and that sort of thing, and that they spend a lot of hours maybe just in their office without a lot of human contact. And so what this article goes on to say, or the solution is essentially, as a recruiter, don't call me to help you with that problem, because it's a problem that all law firm associates face, and there's not a whole lot that that I can do about it. I mean, you can move around from law firm to law firm, or you can even go, perhaps in house, but that's not really going to solve your problem. Your problem, he says, is that you don't understand your position at your firm. You don't understand what's going on, that you have to put in your dues, that you have to work hard. And so that's what he says. Now, bringing it back to emotional intelligence and what we're going to be talking about today, I would posit that the solution is not necessarily put up with it. Okay, what I would posit in an emotional intelligence context is the onus is on the person. It is on the law firm associate. I completely agree with that. You got to work hard. You got to put in your dues. But I believe, and from reading the Thank You Economy, especially these chapters 4 and 5, which I think are extremely important for leaders to understand that it doesn't have to be that way in a law firm. And it's not that way in every law firm, by the way. It's certainly not that way in my law firm. But it has been in big law firms that I've been in the past. So really, I think it's incumbent upon leaders, law firm leaders, to change the culture of their organizations to get their associate attorneys to understand that the law firm cares about them. And I know it's perhaps it's a controversial idea, perhaps it's an idea which people may necessarily disagree with. I'm sure there may be partners, watching this video either live or on YouTube or such that are saying, look, this is a complete joke. Why do we, every person now needs a trophy. Every person needs to feel that they're being cared about, et cetera, et cetera. Well, I think what we found through the recession and the new economy that we're in is that this is what people expect. People expect, whether it's associates, whether it's other people within the law firm, whether it's your clients, they expect that you care about them. There's no longer the situation as it has been in the past, or was in the past, that you can just sit back and do the thing that you have always done, which is, you put in your dues, you spend tons of hours at the firm, and they make you a partner. It's not like that anymore. And what I think a lot of firms are finding is law firm attrition is not great, and the amount of money that law firm leaders are investing in associates, only to see them go elsewhere, is a big problem. And I know, I can relate to some of this with my own story in that, I was at a firm for a couple of years that I had previously been a summer associate at. They put a ton of resources into me, and then when I left, just a couple of years into my practice, I think they were surprised, although maybe not really, because I think people leaving that firm, was common, especially associates. But I think I could feel, and I felt bad in some ways, because I know that they had invested a ton of time recruiting me, a ton of time through their summer program, a ton of time developing my skills in the first couple of years as an associate. So I guess what this comes down to is a new way of thinking for law firm leaders. Now that we're in the thank you economy, now that we're in this new economy where tech and new clients and millennials are coming into play, and social media, things are going to have to change. And so with that, let's move on. So the question at the end of the day, as we had talked about through the first few chapters of this book, is really that the thank you economy is something where caring, which was big in the old days, when my grandparents, for example, maybe ran a business, or were in a business, you cared about your customers because you had to, because everything was local. Now, with the advent of social media and things that people can say about you online very easily and have that go viral, it's very, very important for um, you to very obsessively, as Gary Vaynerchuk would put it, care about your clients. And so how do you do that is the question. How do you develop a culture within your law firm that will create a situation where all of your employees, whether it's your support staff, whether it's your paralegals, whether it's your associates or your partners, to obsessively care about your customers? So here's the first point. He says, success in the thank you economy hinges on obsessively caring about the customer. Yes, but a great caring culture stems from the top of a company and cascades through it like a waterfall. If you want that culture to flow outside of the company to the customer and then get carried even farther by word of mouth, you have to be sure that your messengers live and breathe it the same way you do. Therefore, the dominant obsession for any leader running a company in the thank you economy shouldn't be your competition, nor should it be customer service. It should be your employees. Which is interesting, right? Because he spent the first couple of chapters talking about how customer service is key. Well, what he's saying here is if you want to create a great customer service culture within your firm, then you have to be obsessive about your employees and caring about your employees. So here's the question. In a legal environment, why should employees be the dominant concern of leadership? So your attorneys, paralegals, and support staff. So remember what we talked about in the thank you economy. What's occurred is that customer service is key. So how do you create that customer service? You do that, I mean, think about it. You're one person. You're managing partner of a firm or managing partner of an office. How can you as one person create that culture? And you do it by treating your staff well, treating your attorneys well, treating your paralegals, treating your support staff well. Why is that? It's that way because you want people to be so happy in your firm that they're going to go out of their way to sing the praises of your law firm and to do the best they can on your behalf. So they're not going to the local bar association or your chamber of commerce meeting or whatever, and they're not talking bad about your firm. They're not saying, look, I work there. I don't think it's such a great place, and I don't. Get a little light in here. That's a little better. Anyway, I don't think that. So they don't go ahead and essentially badmouth your firm to other people. You don't ever want that to happen. At the same time, when clients come in, you want your associates, fellow partners, support staff to treat your customers like they're gold. And so the way that you do that, in other words, is to have he says, the cascade of caring that falls like a waterfall. So it's going to start from you as a law firm leader. Again, whether you're partner in charge of a firm, partner in charge of an office, a partner who has a few associates that you work with, it all comes cascading down like a waterfall. So that at the very bottom, what starts with you, goes through your employees, and it's going to go down to your clients so they understand that everyone in the firm cares about them. And you do that by meeting the needs of your employees. Again, I'm laughing because this is, in my mind, a little bit antithetical to what has occurred in the law firm environment for years. Probably for, maybe the past 10, 20 years. Is that people, especially when times were where people were going to, a lot of people were going to law school. A lot of people put their heads down and just worked. You didn't have to meet the needs for employees. But I think nowadays, and what studies have shown and what this book has really taught us so far, is that you have to meet the needs for employees, and your employees have changed. The needs of your employees have changed. Whereas before, you can just say, look, you got to be here at A, B, and C date and time. You got to come in on the weekends. You got to do this and that. now you have to change and adapt to them if you want people to be happy with leadership, if you want them to serve the clients well. So how do you meet the needs for employees? The first thing that makes an employee happy, he says, is by being treated like an adult. This means that until people prove that they can't be trusted, they should be allowed to manage their jobs as they see fit. Now he's talking in a corporate context, and so in the context of a law firm, it's a little bit different. It's kind of like, maybe not. It's not the same, obviously, but it's kind of like a doctor or a nurse type of environment where you can give them only a certain amount of rope because people's or the firms or the hospitals could be endangered if something goes wrong and they're not supervised. So the way I would change, I guess, this first paragraph is just to say, with supervision, you can treat. I mean, every adult should be treated like an adult, but you can trust them, but supervise them as well. So you make sure that deadlines are being met. You make sure that clients are being contacted. That if it's a deposition environment or trial environment, that people are doing what they're supposed to be doing, because it's not like a simple corporate environment where if a person makes a mistake, may not be a big deal or something that can be corrected. In a law firm environment, if you miss a deadline or you do something really crazy or stupid, you could put the firm in jeopardy, especially if you have a small firm. So you make sure you're treating them as an adult, but you want to supervise. The second is feeling that his or her individual needs are being met. This is rare, he says, and it's definitely rare in the law firm environment. To achieve this kind of satisfaction among staff would require business leaders to engage at the same one-on-one level with their employees as with their customers. Until now, not many companies have been up to the challenge. It does sound daunting, but it doesn't have to be. It's merely a matter of establishing a true caring culture at the top, applying thank you economy principles internally as well as externally. So the question is, in a legal environment, how can this be accomplished? So just giving some background into what he's saying on the second point. So he's saying engaging at the same one-on-one level with their employees as with their customers. And typically that means, think about situations with a client, whether it's an individual or even a corporate client. There's usually one or two people within a corporation that you're going to be contacting, or they're going to be the person that needs to be updated. So how do you do that? And it's a simple question, right? It's a simple answer. Well, you find out how they want to be communicated with, and you communicate to them in that way. More and more often, clients want to be updated more and more about everything that's going on, and they want to have an input into the decisions that are being made. So you talk to them on a one-on-one level. You have a phone conversation with them. You have them into the office and talk. That's how you treat your clients, right? So what he's saying here is you want to have that same one-on-one level interaction with your associates and with your paralegals, with your support staff, right? And why is that? And again, I think it goes back to the article that I referenced at the beginning of this. Associates. I mean, the thing about a law firm associate, fresh out of school, has no idea what's going on. They're barely even qualified to have a law degree, let alone practice law responsibly and competently, and also understand the politics of a law firm environment. They just don't get it. Unless they have a relative at the firm, or they've had a family member who was an attorney at the same sort of firm, they don't understand what's going on whatsoever. They understand coming in, well, I know I'm going to get a paycheck. I know that People are gonna give me work, although I'm not quite sure where that work comes from. And I know certain things, but you're really not tuned in. You might know that you have an hour requirement and the like, but you don't really get that at all. So what this book is positing is that the way to clue them in is not to do what I think a lot of firms do, maybe a lot of big firms, is to sort of let them figure it out on their own, because they're smart people, and frankly, law firm leaders don't have time or the inclination to have those conversations, or to and maybe it's, well, I'm treating him as a kid, and I don't necessarily think that's true, and I'll tell you why. Because they just don't know what's going on, and so you want to have, and this book is saying, you want to have one-on-one conversations with people about where you see them at the firm, how they're doing on a particular project, talk about the positives and the negatives, and then talk about how their career is progressing. Either if you want to talk about the number of billable hours, you want to talk about the sort of things that they need to get involved in, or business development generation if they're a little bit older associates, or the sort of networks that they're creating. You want to be able to have these one-on-one conversations with folks. And I think the question is, who should be doing it within a law firm environment? Personally, I think the top level of leadership should be having these conversations. Whether if it's a bigger law firm, multi-office law firm, certainly your partner in charge of the office should be having these very candid conversations with you. My What I would love to see is that the top people at the law firm would have a conversation, however, whether it's 30 minutes or whether it's 20 minutes, whatever it is. I think people need to understand that they're cared about, because otherwise it's they need to have a lot of internal motivation to then make sure that they care about your clients in the way that they should be cared about. And I know, again, it's a crazy idea to suggest that the partner in charge of a law firm should be talking to each and every associate, talking to every paralegal just to understand them and to show them that they care. I know it's a very crazy idea, but I really think that it's something that needs to be accomplished, and it would go a long way for associates to then understand, okay, well, now I understand. This is where I am in the scheme of things. Am I on the partner track? Am I off the partner track? How do I get back on the partner track? Do I even want to be on the partnership track? These are the things that I think law firm leaders need to find out about their associates and their other folks within the firm, so they feel like law firm leaders care about them. And again, I think people may question the entire premise of what I'm talking about, but I think it's very true. And I think if you want to win in the new economy and the new environment that we're in, then this is something that has to be accomplished. So let's talk about these one-on-one communications with employees. He says, I'm a naturally touchy-feely guy, and at work I've been like a mother hen, one with a huge competitive streak for sure, constantly checking in on my employees, talking to them, and when I can, making sure that they have the latitude and resources to solve whatever problems they encounter. I've made it a priority to know what's going on professionally, and often personally, with everyone on my staff. The constant dialogue, which helps me confirm that my employees feel that they are being allowed to position themselves to succeed, has made it easy for me to see which people aren't pulling their weight or which isn't the right person for the job. Thanks to the communication facilitated by the open, trusting, caring culture of the company, however, it has been extremely rare for me to have to let anyone go. So here's the question coming out of that. What about mentoring programs? I mean, isn't you're at a firm, you're at a big firm, and really the way that they try to get around these one-on-one conversations is by saying, "Oh, well, you're going to have a partner who's going to be your mentor." And at the end of the day, I think, I'm hardly an expert on mentoring programs, but I can tell I've been in a few mentoring programs, and let me tell you, they often don't work. And the reason they don't work is because um, either the mentor doesn't have the time or doesn't want to take the time to mentor the associate, or the associate is too scared to have the appropriate conversation with the mentor because they don't know the questions to ask. They don't know that whether they can be frank with the person or not. And so mentoring programs often don't work for that reason. They often also don't work because the law firm leaders at the top of the food chain don't aren't showing the type of caring and concern that I was talking about earlier. Why would you, as an associate, have a frank conversation with a partner who's a mentor that you don't know or you barely know, when you can certainly, when you see that your law firm leader, partner in charge of the office, isn't going out of his or her way to show care for you. If you don't think that they don't care, why would this other partner care for you? It's very simple, and oftentimes they show that they don't care. And so mentor programs don't work for that reason. However, I think mentoring programs would work dramatically well if from the very top of the food chain, in whatever food chain we're talking about, they place caring and concern as a number one priority to show to law firm staff, associates, and fellow partners. And so I really think having these one-on-one conversations is extremely important, and that's going to just having a period of communication, even if it's just a 30-minute conversation, or a 10-minute conversation, 20-minute conversation with the partner in charge of the office or of the firm in general. I know it sounds like a lot of time, but I think it's something that needs to be done. And and look, I'm a huge Gary Vaynerchuk fan, and I'm sure all of you know by now. And when this book is over, I'm sure I'll be referencing him in the future when we moved on to other topics. But he even shows you, if he has this daily program, daily video cast that he does. It's called Daily V. It's essentially following him around. I know. Again, it's kind of a crazy thing to think that someone has a video camera essentially following him around. But I think it shows a lot of things, and one of the things that he's been showing recently are these one-on-one conversations with his real employees. And again, it's not like it's candid camera or anything. They know exactly what's going on, and when they join the firm, they know that they're being filmed. So it's not like anything confidential is being said that's not appropriate to be on video. But I think as you look at these one-on-one conversations, a lot of different things come out. You got, they probably fall into, three or four different categories. You have the one person that, one type of person is very, trying to impress the boss, essentially, trying to show them that they're, smartest person in the room, or, that they're a big fan, or things of that nature. You also have, people who are just trying to have a very frank conversation with Gary about their lives and that sort of thing. And those are the ones that I think go pretty well. The other category, I think, is probably people who are a little intimidated and a little shy. But I think no matter what category, and they're a little bit, they're shy, but they're also a little skeptical about what's going on, because pretty much in any company, unless you have a very small company or dealing directly with the owner on a daily basis, these type of conversations don't happen. If you work at a very large corporation, or you're at a very large law firm, I think it's the same way. The only time that you have a very you have a conversation. Well, the only time you see the person talk is either on TV or at a CLE or something like that, or at basically an all hands on law firm or associate or that sort of meeting. Unless, of course, in a law firm environment, you're working with this person directly as a partner. The person, still has a practice. Um, so really, I think what's going to be needed in the new economy and in the thank you economy that we're in right now is that these one-on-one conversations have to occur. And it's, I think at the end of the day, a lot of this is, Chicken Little, the sky's falling, law firms are going down. They're not going down the tubes today. That's a bet that I can definitely make because I'm in a law firm. But what is your law firm going to survive? 20, 30 years into the future when technology is much more advanced than it is now. When you have, Robert Shapiro's computer service or Avo or whatever it is that is rapidly trying to take the place of attorneys. How is your law firm? How is my law firm going to survive unless all hands are on deck trying to keep clients and keep attorneys and keep support staff by treating them extremely, extremely well. And with social media, certainly it's a situation where you got to treat people well, or you never know when someone's going to go online and say something really dumb, really hurtful about your firm, and you may not even see it. Is the thing as a law firm leader, you really have no idea what people are doing and saying online. And back in the old days, sure, if they said it to their friend down the street or their neighbor or whatever, that wasn't going to hurt your firm. But certainly a person going online and just crucifying your firm over and over again online, and that getting shared hundreds of times, and getting to a client or a potential client, that is no good at all. And so that's why it's extremely important that law firms, if you want to survive, change your culture, and start caring about your employees. So we talked about mentorship programs. So the next point would be to build a culture to know who you are and be authentic. So this is concerning law firm leaders once again. And he says that since culture stems from the top of a company, one would hope that the top exec has a good sense of who he or she is. Strong self-awareness makes a strong culture possible. Remembering who you are and the qualities that have made you successful until now, whether you're a CEO, an executive, or a mid-level manager, is extremely important as you work towards developing, sustaining, and spreading the company culture. It won't happen if you try to wear anyone's hat but your own. And so remember, a key thing with authenticity and self-awareness, those are all qualities of emotional intelligence, which is exactly what we're talking about in this book club. And we're going to talk about how to be authentic. We're going to talk about how to develop self-awareness. But it's true, right? If you're a law firm leader and you try to be someone that you're not, or you try to mold people into something, into a way that you don't want them to be, unintentionally, that's not going to help. You want to be very authentic and intentional about what kind of culture you want to make. He goes on to say regarding authenticity is with the power of social media to spread articles, images, videos, and audio recordings around the world in minutes, authenticity and the long-term relationships that can result from authentic interaction with consumers will almost always be the deciding factor in how a brand or company survives a false step in the thank you economy. So how do lawyers become self-aware? That's the next question, and we're going to talk about that more fully. I'm thinking about doing the Strength Finders book as one of our books in the book club, and I'm a little hesitant to do that because I know a lot of people have already read it or they've taken the Gallup survey and that sort of thing. I think it could be interesting to apply that specifically to attorneys. So I'm not quite sure about that. If anyone has any um, suggestions on how to or what books would be helpful other than the StrengthsFinders book, so lawyers can become more self-aware of what their strengths and weaknesses are. So please let me know. But one interesting way to become self-aware is, and again, I go back to some of the stuff that Gary Vaynerchuk has talked about over the years in his content, is essentially having a very frank conversation with people. And again, I know it's very hard to do, but have a very frank conversation with someone, and you got to put them. He says you got to put them in this mold of making sure that they understand that you want to trust them and you want them to be authentic and serious about thinking about things, and essentially you want them to tell you what your strengths and weaknesses are. And I know that having that sort of frank conversation is often very hard to do, especially if you don't have perhaps a close network of friends or family to do that with. Um, and so that's hard. And so that's why I think perhaps doing the Strength Finders test or other things that I'm going to do some investigating on and see what we can use for the book club. But there are several ways that lawyers can become self-aware, and that's what we're going to be talking about. Becoming self-aware so you can be authentic in not only your daily life, but in your practice as well. Not only with clients, but also with your employees, with your associates, with fellow partners. So going on, he talks about committing and sending a direct message. So again, this is for law firm leaders or partners in charge of offices. He says that the mental commitment to have these one-on-one conversations with your employees is probably even more important than the financial commitment, especially in the early stages of preparing a company for the thank you economy. After all, there are going to be speed bumps and wrong turns and flat tires along the way. But if the leaders of the company are unwavering in their determination to create a culture of supersized caring, none of those setbacks will slow the company down for long. And as long as leaders commit to building a caring culture, they need to send a strong, direct message about their intent. Employees should be able to feel the difference immediately, and they should be able to look to their leaders for examples of the kind of care, concern, and one-on-one interaction with customers that will be expected of them. So let me just step back. The next question is, do you think it's worth the effort for law firm leaders to show that they care? To me, the answer is absolutely it's worth the effort. And as I said, and I'm not going to say it again in much detail, except to say that change is here, change is coming. In 20, 30 years, how is your law firm going to be positioned in the age of technology, when technology is going to be so much more advanced than it is now? Only the law firms, only the lawyers that can apply these emotional intelligence principles and show that they care for their employees and care for their customers in such a strong way that they stick with them. Only in that way only in those ways are your law firm going to survive. And then additionally, how are you going to keep your millennial attorneys if you don't show that you care about them? If you don't have these one-on-one conversations, how are they going to react? Because millennials are much different than Generation Y, Generation X, certainly different from the baby boomers. And I'm not here to say that one is better or worse than the other. Well, all I'm saying is that they are completely different, and they want to be treated in a much different way. And if you want to retain them, if you don't want to lose that investment that you put into them, then you want to have that conversation, and you want to show that you care. So what he's talking about is and what I'm talking about is, if you're watching this, you're probably in a situation where you're not creating from scratch a firm. You're probably in a firm already, and so the question is, how do you, if you're a law firm leader, or even just a partner who has supervision over a few associates, how are you going to go about doing that? And I think at the end of the day, um, what Gary Vaynerchuk talks about in this part of the book is sending a strong, direct message about your intent. That it's incredibly important that we show respect and care for our clients, and we're going to do everything in our power to make sure that we put you in a position as an associate, as a paralegal, as a support staff person's assistant, to put you in a position where you can provide that care. And that's how you show that you care about them. And then additionally, you're going to have the type of career conversations that I talked about earlier. So all of those things, sending a strong message, and so that they feel the difference immediately. So much, in fact, that perhaps, just like I talked about earlier with Gary Vaynerchuk, people are going to look at you differently. They might be a little skeptical of what you're talking about. It's going to take a long time, I think, if firms actually implement this. It's going to take a long time for associates to say, wow, maybe this isn't, a scheme or some sort of, fraud that they're trying to pull over one on me. They actually do care about me, and they do actually want me to care a lot about our clients. And so maybe I want to trust law firm leaders in my firm. So that's the sort of thing that you want to have happen, but it's that cascading down a waterfall of the caring that you want to show. And so the final point: investing in your leaders, in your employees, and trust them. He says too many leaders invest insufficiently in their employees for fear of losing out when those employees leave. Any investment you make in your employees will be safe if they believe that you really care about them and their future. Create a culture that rewards people who show that they care. Seek the input of people who have shown a tendency to take risks and share big ideas. Prove that you value your employees above all else by giving them the freedom to ask what they want, to experiment, and to be themselves. He goes on to say that creating a thank you economy culture will become easier and easier as you begin hiring people who share your commitment to caring. It will be easy to spot the people already on staff who can't adapt or just don't get the concept. And as they leave, you will replace them with others who share your DNA. When you know without a doubt that you have made good hires, it's easy to give employees the freedom that they need to give the kind of one-on-one customer service that will resonate in the thank you economy. Create a culture of openness. Let your employees blog and tweet as much as they like, and let them be themselves. And that's the point, right? You want to put your employees, your associates, your paralegals in the best position that they can to be themselves, to be the most caring people that they can be, so that they can then care and service your clients to the maximum extent. And the only way you're going to do that is by letting your employees trust you and be authentic. And so the question then becomes, shouldn't law firms be afraid of what will happen if their lawyers blog, tweet, Insta, Snap, etc.? Well, yeah, they should be afraid if you're not, and I think this is a great question to end with. Yeah, law firms should really be afraid if they have not put themselves in a position to show their employees that they care about them. If you have an associate who is kind of off on his own, blogging or Snapchatting or whatever, you have no idea what he's going to say about the firm, because the firm hasn't shown that, firm leaders haven't shown that they care about that person. And so who knows what they're going to say. They could say something completely dumb They could badmouth the firm. They could badmouth the client. And certainly we have no idea what the law firm associate is going to say. And so therefore, they're going, yes, as a law firm leader, you should be afraid unless you've made the switch to show and to encourage the person to be the caring selves that they can be, and to be an authentically caring person and associate and an attorney. So that's it for today. We are going to next week talk about chapters 6, 7, and 8 of the Thank You Economy. We'll be on Periscope February 8th at 7 p.m. Central. To keep up with the book club, I really encourage you to join our Facebook group at facebook.com/lawyerseq and catch up on my Twitter account, twitter.com/ILEnvirolawblog. The next broadcast will, of course, be next Wednesday, February 8th at 7 p.m. Central on Periscope. And I'm going to be in Miami this weekend for the mid-year meeting of the American Bar Association. If you're going to be there and you get a chance to, and you've been following this stuff, please drop me a line. Let me know if you're going to be in town. Would love to meet up with some of you or all of you who follow this Periscope. I appreciate all of your time tonight, and I hope everyone has a pleasant evening.